Hello, and welcome back to another amazing episode of Dénht'ā. Hi, how are you? For the people that don't know, that are sitting at home, and for who may not notice, but Dénht'ā is my culture, Kaska language, and it means hi, how are you? So I figure that's a beautiful way to start my podcast, especially when I get to talk to amazing, fantastic Indigenous people from around the Okanagan or around BC. And today, I have another amazing, fantastic guest, and it is Jessica Chillihitzia. Oh my God.
Chillihitzia.
Jessica Chillihitzia. Would you please introduce yourself?
Yes. Why hoskohol hati quast incha isquis khilat. And I just said, hello, good day, how are you? My name is Khilat, which translates to rain sprinkle in the Insulction Okanagan language.
Nice. Thank you for being here. I'm so excited to have a conversation with you. So you started with your language, which was amazing because like it's dying in our culture right now, and it's such like, I don't want to call it a burden. That's not what I'm looking for. Like, learning the language is tough. At least for me, anyways. I'm learning mine as well. Do you ever feel like there's a pressure that you need to learn?
Oh, 100%, especially because a lot of my language teachers are constantly like, elders are dying. You need to like learn from them while you can because they're not here forever. So there's definitely a huge pressure to learn it and teach it to others. But it's also stressful because I'm like worried I'm not pronouncing things right or doing enough. So that's also a struggle.
Yeah, I can get that. I've taken some classes and I'm trying to learn it. And then I also think like, oh, what if I'm not pronouncing this right? And I was like, I shouldn't let that hinder me, because when I do hear other people talking about it, it's like, this is so nice. Can I understand it all? No, but I want to get to that point.
Yeah, for sure. And like, I think another thing about language is like, even thinking about English, it has changed so much. Like, you think about Shakespeare English compared to now, it's like totally different. And I think it's natural for language to like change and have new terms and even pronunciations to change, and that's just part of the growing process. So I try to keep that in mind when I'm like learning language, so I don't feel so like shy to speak.
Definitely. I love that. Do you live, like, you're from the local area, are you?
Kind of. Like, I am Okanagan, but my band is in Douglas Lake, which is just outside of Merritt. But the Okanagan, I don't know if you guys know this, but the Okanagan Nation is made up of 7 different bands in Canada and 1 more in the United States, so 8 altogether. So, yeah.
Nice. So your language learners, your language knowledge keepers, are they around here that you're able to learn it with, or is it
Yeah, so I was in a year-long immersion cohort through Silk Language House, and it was on Zoom because it was during 2020 when I started, and we had people from all over. Like, we had people from Colville, like Okanagan Indian Band in Vernon, WFN, like all over the Okanagan region. So most of it was online, but my language teachers that I had did live here in Kelowna.
Cool.
Yeah.
I love that. That's so good. For people that's getting to know Jessica, I've known you for a couple years now, I would say, but it was a very like an acquaintance kind of friendship. I knew that she was Native, and I always thought she was so beautiful because she always decorated and dressed herself up, and always little trinkets in her hair. Like, I loved it. Like, it was fantastic. But getting to know you in this little small moments, speaking your language, that's so cool. I love that. And I shouldn't be so surprised that Indigenous people know their language, but it is so rare to hear it. And I just admire you so much more. That's so cool.
You.
Like, that's so fantastic.
I would say like it is definitely like a more rare thing, especially in like younger people, because there's a lot of like negative stereotypes around Indigenous languages. And so people don't want to learn how to speak it. And like even me myself, when I was younger, I was like, what's the point? This is a dying language. Like, who am I going to communicate with?
Yeah.
But now that I'm older, I kind of have learned how important it is because it's so connected to culture and heritage. And like most of our traditions were passed down orally. So learning language is like a huge important thing in my life. So
yes, exactly. Like you said, it's our knowledge keepers as oral history learners, and they transfer their knowledge through stories. And I agree with that with language, because I grew up in the Yukon, and there was a specific Dénht'ā language class that we had to take every day. And I remember being this little youth being like, why am I doing this? The language is dying. Mm-hmm. And now that I'm older, I wish I paid attention more.
Yeah.
And then I have like, there's some words that pick up. Like, I don't know why for my whole life I've always remembered fish. It's like sluga. But like, I think I remember because just the way I had to hold my tongue. Yeah. Because there's no other language that has a sound to it.
For sure.
So like growing up, once again, feeling like the language is dying, but also that there was that embarrassment.
Yeah.
For speaking it out loud, because we grew up in a world that essentially said, fuck you natives. Like,
100%.
And then navigating that and learning the language. That's just like cool of you to just be like, I'm learning it. I'm taking this. This is my own. I need to keep this history going.
Yeah. And like in my family, it kind of skipped a couple generations because of like residential schools. So my grandma did not speak the language. My parents did not. So I'm kind of, I guess, the third generation, and I'm starting to speak it, which is really cool. Just going back to like what you remembered as a kid, the one word I always remembered is michikat, which is actually Thompson. My mom's Thompson, my dad's Okanagan. And michikat means sit down. And I was like, why do I remember that word? And my mom was like, because your great grandpa would tell you to sit down because you'd be standing at the dinner table. And he'd be like, michikat, michikat. And I was like, oh, that's why I remember it, because I was like a naughty little child.
That's amazing. Michikat.
Yeah.
Just telling you to sit down. There's we're going to talk about little words that we remembered, because this is fun to me. There's since dialects are a little different across Canada, I grew up in the Yukon and I moved north, and there's, I don't know if it's the same here, but this is with carrier language. Hari in my language means hurry. And I remember when I first moved to BC, my friends were yelling hari, and in their language it means hello. Oh. So then I started like walking quicker to them, and they're like, hari, and I'd be like, I'm coming. And then they'd be like, no, we're saying hello. And, my God. And I remember being a 10-year-old kid thinking that was so wild that the languages were similar but different.
Yeah. Well, even in like Thompson and Okanagan, it's so funny because they're both really close to each other in proximity. And like, so the word owl, shkalula, it's in Thompson and Okanagan, it's the same word, but the stories behind it are totally different. Like Thompson, people see owls as these wise creatures, you look up to them, but in Okanagan, they're like bad omens, and like shkalula is like this monster-eating child-eating monster.
Wow.
So it's so different, and whenever I meet someone named shkalula, I'm like, side eye.
Do I have to watch for you?
Yeah.
Amazing. You mentioned this earlier, and I want to bring it up. Your Indigenous name. It's like, what was that again?
Slila.
Slila?
Yeah.
Slila. See, like, as much as like Indigenous classes I have, we use different parts of our tongue that I feel like no other languages use. Mm-hmm. So, Slila. Amazing. And that means?
It means rain sprinkle.
Rain sprinkle. Mm-hmm. How did you get your Indigenous name?
So I got it pretty recently when I was taking the language class in 2020. Mm-hmm. My middle name is Rain, and my mom actually, I convinced her to take the language class with me because I was like, Mom, I need to practice with someone, so can you like learn with me? Mm-hmm. So on the very first day, our teacher was like, do you guys already have names? We're going to give you names if you don't. And my teacher was kind of asking about different qualities that we have. And my mom was like, well, her middle name is Rain, and I call her Rain, and I love that. And Rain is chikite, which is kind of really harsh and not very pretty. And my mom's like, no, that's not her at all. She's like this dainty little girly girl. Yeah. So my teacher was like, what about Slila, which is rain sprinkle? And my mom was like, yes, that's like perfect. So it was like a combination of my mom and my language teacher.
Nice.
But yeah, it was pretty recent.
Oh, that's cool. But like, we do have naming ceremonies which come from a loved one normally. So it makes sense that your mother would say that. But how do you say just rain again?
Chikite.
Chikite. Can you imagine? I mean, like, if there's still some beauty to it, but like, am yelling her Chikite? And you're like,
yeah. It's like totally not me at all.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
So, because like you said, I'm usually all dressed up with sparkly things in my hair, and I'm not a very harsh person, I don't think.
No, you do have a very like soft, calming, beautiful energy around you. And I feel like that's what gravitates me towards you. Not just because you're native and I love all natives, but the energy's there as well. And Yeah, I think that's so cool that you have an Indigenous name, because I have one as well. It's Dénht'ā, if you're curious. Dénht'ā.
Dénht'ā.
And it was given to me by my grandfather. And there's a little fun story about it. It was that I grew up very Indigenous. I
am an Indian.
But sorry, my parents lived very like culturally when I was younger. So we lived off the land. We lived in a cabin that my father built. We trapped. And then my grandparents were still very heavily into ceremony. So we did a lot of these things when I was younger, fish camps, which is great. I appreciate it. When I was younger, though, didn't appreciate it. Because once again, I was like, I want to go watch TV with my cousins, instead of going out hunting. Anyways, very appreciative of it now. But my grandfather, he didn't know I was born. He just had a dream the night I was born. And then he had a dream of me roaming like the world. So the name means the wanderer. So I feel like it's just such a beautiful thing that he didn't know I was born, but he had the dream the night I was born.
That's so cool.
And I was like, so cool. I love that.
My mom is kind of like really intuitive like that. Like she has dreams of things that are going to happen or have happened that about like people in our life. And she had a similar dream about my brother before he was born. And so she had 2 girls, and then everyone in the family was a little disappointed because they're like, we need a man in this family. But anyway, before she was even pregnant, she had a dream of this really handsome man coming up to her at, it's called Chaperon Lake, which is near Douglas Lake. Mm-hmm. And anyway, in this dream, he was like, I am the son that you're never going to have. And he was like, my name is like Arrow. And then he kind of like walks away, and she's like, that is so strange. What do you mean, son I'm never going to have? But then she ended up being pregnant and had my brother, and she wanted to name him Arrow, but everyone was like, no, you can't name him that, because what if he's like a broken arrow or bent arrow or something like that? So she ended up naming him Chaperon, but I just think that's so cool because she didn't even know she was going to have a boy or even have another kid, and there he was.
That's so amazing. Do you ever call him Arrow?
Oh, all the time. Like, I think everyone in our family kind of does, especially my mom.
Yeah. And he's not a broken or bent arrow?
No. No, he's a little cutie, so he turned out great.
How old are they?
My brother, he's 22.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you say like he's a cutie, I just instantly thought that they were a young person, but no, they're an adult, not a broken arrow.
No, but still my baby brother.
Yeah, that makes sense. My sister calls me the same. She's like 5 years older than me, and every time I talk to her, hey, baby bro. It's like I get it. Like I'm 40 now, but like it's still like when I hear it, there's a part of me that's, oh, this is cute. It's home, but also I'm like, you can stop calling me baby bro now. And she's like, that's never going to happen.
Yeah, 100%. He probably feels the same way, especially because he's like a lot taller than me. But I'm like, no, you are my little baby brother.
Yeah, you always will be. You're like, you were tiny when I was holding you.
I know.
But it's also like very Indigenous as well, right? Like everyone's family. There's no first, second, or third cousin. There's just cousins. Mm-hmm. There's no like great aunt or like great aunt. It's just aunts and uncles. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's the same with family members. You're always just going to be the little bro. You're always going to be the younger sister. You're always going to be the younger cousin.
Yeah, I actually really like that. Kind of going back to language, this just reminded me, like in Silkshin, when you're referring to your parents, depending on how you're feeling, if you're feeling more masculine or feminine, you'll call your parents something different. Mm-hmm. So if you're in like a more feminine mood or identify as like feminine, then you'll call your mom Toom. Yeah. And then if you are feeling more masculine or identify masculine, then you call your mom, oh goodness, I don't ever feel masculine, so I don't ever refer to my mom that way. But there's a different word for it, and
That's
there's
so
like
cool.
Also no pronouns. It's always they them for everyone. There's no she her he him. Like
same with ours.
Yeah.
No pronouns in our language at all. There's like different words from mother and father mm-hmm. that aren't necessarily gendered. It's just this person birthed me. This person did that. But also no pronouns, and I thought that was so cool. And that's so cool that your language as well doesn't have pronouns. I wonder if a lot of Indigenous languages don't. I feel like
probably not. Like even like we were talking two-spirit people. A two-spirit person in Silkshin is called Stamiat. Mm-hmm. And I think because the way that we see people, it doesn't really matter of what their gender is. So, and I think a lot of other Indigenous cultures are like that, so I don't think there's a whole lot that have she, her, he, him.
It's true, because like in our communities, it's more community focused, where like how we're helping out or where we fit into the village, we call it, or wherever we happen to be living. Whereas I find like colonial views are very Eurocentric views. It's very like putting someone in like a box and like trying to store them away, like, you know, with the she, her, or queer, straight, or religious, non-religious. Where I find with a lot of Indigenous cultures, it's just love. It's just family, essentially, right? It's like, we're just going to come in and you're going to be my little brother forever.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like so interesting because there's people that I meet and they like refer to me as their little sister, even though we're not related. Like, oh, you're my little sister. And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, you are. You're young, but just since I mentioned earlier, I am long in the tooth. I now have Indigenous people coming up to me asking me, like, can I call you Auntie? Is that okay?
Auntie Ella?
Yeah, Auntie Ella. And I know that it's a term of respect, and I know that they want to call me that out as like respect, but I'm like, I just want to be the young cousin still. But I'm like, all right, you can call me Auntie. So now it's weird when I go out and literally a bunch of Indigenous people be like, hey, Auntie Ella. Part of me is like, ooh, but I'm like, nope, I'm of the age. If my sister had a child, they would be 22 by now, or 23 if she had it. So like,
you gotta embrace it.
Yeah, gotta embrace the cultural significance of being called an auntie, right? One day they're gonna be like, hey, Kukamela.
Oh God.
Yeah, or whatever the not current language is, but Kukam is a very, like, you know the term Pan-Indian,
No.
where they, so Pan-Indian, kind of a negative term because we don't want to refer to ourselves as Indians, but it's the only thing I can think of where they just use one term and blanket it across everyone. It's kind of like what they did with Two-Spirit.
Oh, okay.
When they had that conference in Winnipeg. They just wanted one word that can unify everyone, Indigenous, queer, across Turtle Island. And then our own languages, we find that we have the different words for it. Like you mentioned, yours was Stamia. Exactly. But Two-Spirit is the one that the world knows, because it's easier to have the one word. That's what Pan-Indian essentially means. So that's the same with like Kukum. Not everyone calls their grandmother Kukum, but everyone knows the term Kukum now means grandmother kind of thing. So one day someone's going to call me Kukamela. Not looking forward to it. One day you're going to be called Auntie.
I'm not looking forward to it.
Yeah, right now you're still a little cousin or little sister.
For now.
Amazing. All right, so let's bring it back to you. So, well, it's all about you, but let's focus more. So you are Indigenous queer. Yeah. Right? So growing up how you are with your culture and your life, and not experiment with any, like coming to terms with your identity, did the cultural identity help you come out, or did you come out and then later on reconnect with your culture?
So when I was coming out to my family, my mom is very Christian and I was raised very Christian. So it was not super easy, just because the way the church was, that you're like, no to the gays.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So when I came out to my mom, she was just like very stressed that I wasn't going to be in heaven with her. But my stepdad, who is very much into his culture, he was just like, Angeline, if you want our daughter to be in our lives, you have to accept her. Yeah. And he was kind of said, if you do not accept her, you are more colonized than you think. And she was like, me colonized? So she was kind of really taken aback by that, and it was really fast for her to be accepting, which is super lucky. But growing up super religious, and then also in my culture, it was interesting because I think a lot of Indigenous people are religious just because of residential schools. Like most of my family, they're Catholic or Christian or somewhere in there. So
I've had this conversation with another Indigenous person recently, because I find it very strange to meet someone in today's age that's Indigenous and super religious. I understood when I was younger, because residential school really indoctrinated us to kill the Indian in the child, so they really pushed a colonial, like, religious views on us. So I could understand back then, but now I find it really hard, because like we all have the knowledge behind it. We have like internet that taught us. We also have like stories that we can relate to. Where am I going with this? It's about religion.
It's just rare?
Well, like it's rare, but also just it doesn't make sense to me when
Yeah.
Indigenous people are still super religious. It's like, you know, that is what killed our culture. I'm not saying that you don't have to. Like everyone needs to have something to believe in. I get that. But also we have our creator. We have our Mother Earth. We have our Father Sky.
It is interesting about my mom in that sense because like I'm no longer going to church and super religious, but she very much is. But she finds ways to like connect them, like God and the creator and the creation of the world and everything. So she finds ways to connect them, which I think is super interesting, because I feel like I'm more spiritual because I'm connected to my culture, but she's kind of like both, which I don't know how she does that, but
I mean, if it works, right?
Yeah.
And if she can get rid of the very like Eurocentric colonial ways of seeing, especially with queer people, then there's room to grow.
Yeah.
But thinking about like religion and indigeneity, and like I don't really see there's much of a cross connect there, but everyone needs to have their own thing to believe in. Okay, we're gonna have to stop for this moment because I don't remember where I was going with this conversation. There was something you said and I thought it was fantastic and I wanted to build on it, but you know, we're gonna gloss over that.
It's okay.
All right. How about let's connect back to your identity. Oh, this is where I was going. Thinking about it.
Keep your arm. You got a rip in your side.
Was it this side?
Yeah. Arm down.
This is where I was going with the conversation. When your stepfather said to your mother, if you don't accept your daughter, then it's very like colonial of you.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite arguments to make right now is that if someone says something like some people gatekeep two-spiritedness and be like, you can't be this because you're not doing that. I'm like, oh, well, that's some very colonial views that you have there. You're really pushing that colonial view on this. And then they stop and think, like, yeah, I am. I'm not really thinking with my Indigenous lens, which this is me that's trying to indoctrinate the world into seeing an Indigenous lens is just all about love in the circle and being in unity with everyone.
I think that's like so true, especially when it comes to like recently I had to renew my status card, which I think is so stupid, but I had to renew it. And something my coworker was talking about was just like blood quantum and the last digit on our status card number and how people are like, she wasn't being negative or anything in that sense, but she was just stressed because she was applying for kids to get status and she's like, they probably can't because their blood quantum is too small.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting because some Indigenous people are really like, oh, you're like Métis, or oh, you're only like a half-blood. Like they can be really negative about it.
So negative,
which
like
is
gatekeepy.
100% a colonial view.
It is. Like you're just telling you that you can't be native enough, and it's wild. So for people that don't know about blood quantum, there is this thing where a lot of people are with the government, with the status card. They'll take away your status if they feel like you've been too whitewashed, should I say. But I didn't know that they still had this, but I know that on your status card, if there was a 1 or a 2 at the end of it, a 1 essentially means that you can pass on your indigeneity on your cards. You can give your status to your children. If it's a 2, it means that status dies with you.
Yeah.
And that's so wild. And people are so blown away when they learn about this. Mine is a 1, but you know what? It was a 2. And then I got married and I got my own number, because I was still under my mother's number for a long time. And then I got my own number afterwards. And then it changed to a 1.
Oh, interesting.
It was so interesting that and no one explained to me how it was. And the reason why mine was a 2 is my mother is full native, but my dad is Métis. So then the government was like, oh, you know, you're getting too diluted. But what's wild is my culture, Casca Dene, is very matriarchal. So your status only follows the mother's line. It never follows the father's.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's the same with yours.
Mine's the opposite. It's very paternal. It follows the dad, which my dad is like full blood, but my mom is, quotations because it's stupid.
It is.
But my mom is only half, like her dad is white and her mom is native. So because mine followed my dad's, it won't end with me. But I don't know. It's very confusing. And also my mom was like, you have to find like a native man to marry. And I'm like, well, first of all, that's not happening, man. And second of all, like, for queer people to have kids, it's so different. So I'm like, how is that going to work? So I'm probably going to end up adopting kids or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder how that works. I never looked into it too much with adoption.
Yeah.
Yeah, but for the people that didn't know, that one and the two, it's pretty messed up. But from what I know is that if I had kids naturally, which, you know, it's not going to happen either with myself, I can have a child with a white woman, and my children would have status, but then the status would die with them.
Mm-hmm.
But if I had a child with a Native woman or a Native person or a Native womb, whatever it is, they would get the ability to pass it on.
Yeah.
But it's just so weird that that's how we're quantifying our indigeneity, is through a number on a status card.
Yes. And I think, like, in university, I read this book. It's called The Truth About Stories by Thomas King. I don't know.
Love Thomas King. I have so many of his books.
Yeah. So this book was kind of really eye-opening, because in university, I feel like people were always like, oh, you're not Native enough because I didn't speak my language. I didn't do a lot of the cultural things. So you're not Native enough. And Thomas King was kind of saying in his book, well, what does an Indigenous person look like to you? Are they wearing headdresses? Like, are they like living out in the wild?
Feather
like,
in her hair.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's like not the case just because we were colonized.
Mm-hmm.
And people kind of expect us to be stagnant in time. And like, similar to language, we're not going to be. No culture is stagnant in time. The only time it is if it's dead.
Yeah.
And because we're not, we're going to change, and that's totally okay. And I think it's beautiful.
Yeah, like, we're evolving and we're growing and we're learning how to reconnect with our culture. Because like you said, we were colonized. Residential schools, people, if they don't know, they actually said in documents, kill the Native in the child, or kill the Indian in the child. So it was really pushed out of us. So now we are at a point where we are learning to navigate this world while reconnecting with our culture. And to be truthful, a lot of us don't know how that looks. It's going to look how we make it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I've stepped really far away from my culture when I was younger because I grew up in a place that was super racist. So being white was the more acceptable thing to do when I was younger. So I tried to be more white to fit in. It worked, but then it made me angrier when I got older, realizing that this world's pretty fucked up if it told me that I need to be more white to be accepted. So now I'm a very proud Indigenous person that's going to fight for where I stand. But it's just wild that this is what the world makes us to see.
Yeah, I kind of had like a similar experience where I felt really embarrassed to be Indigenous growing up, and I wanted to like hide it. And even like growing up on the res, I remember telling my friends, like, they would be like, oh, where do you live? And I would never say I live on the res because I didn't want them to know, which is so crazy.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah. So I was just like, I don't remember what I said. But I would try to convince everyone my house was just outside of the res. But it wasn't. It was in the res.
In the res. Yeah, I remember being like, this community where I lived was called Dénht'ā, and that was the res, and there was Grand Isle, which is the white town. Yeah, the Dénht'ā, which is Native. And I'd be like, oh, I lived close to Dénht'ā.
Mm-hmm, that's what I'd say.
And they'd be like, oh, close? I'd be like, yeah, just not on the res, though.
Yeah.
I live close to Dénht'ā. Like, dude, it's just wild that we say that. And now, when I think about it, it's not a bad place to live. It's just that society told us that it was a bad place to live, so we didn't want to be associated with it.
Yeah, and like now, my res is kind of in the middle of nowhere, and I came here to go to school, and I kind of just never left. And living in Kelowna, I think it's nice because I can still connect to people that are in my culture because the Okanagan Nation is so big. Mm-hmm. But I do get sad sometimes that I'm like, oh, I kind of miss my family. Even though they're close, it's like, I don't know, 2-hour drive, hour and a half.
Yeah. It's still a weekend trip, right?
Yeah, 100%. So I definitely wish I appreciated living closer to them and being able to connect with them on different like community activities. Like they're always going ice fishing or berry picking or whatever. And I don't get to do those things. So I definitely took that stuff for granted as a kid.
Oh, we totally did. The things that we realized, but you know, you're still young. You can still do that, right? There's berry picking you can do here. Take your lovely little, your boyfriend, your partner, your him. I don't know how to contact him.
It's actually so funny that you keep going back to that because like there was a time we saw you after a show and you're like, where's him, her, it? Where's it? And then Elodie like showed up and Elodie thinks that is like so funny and was just like, honestly, I love being referred to as an it. Like, because I don't want anyone to even see me as human, and Ella just sees me as an it, and that's perfect.
Perfect. I adore your partner. I think he's so cool, but I would never say it.
It's okay. It's okay. They're a little creature.
Yeah, they're fantastic. And you two make the perfect couple. You just look perfect and like you're supposed to be together.
It's kind of are.
Yeah, we are. It's amazing. I want to get back to like having your home so close and feeling disconnected, because it reminded me of urban natives, which people don't know is natives that grew up in a city or have been disconnected from their culture. I find talking to a lot of people, they have this sense of feeling bad, or they feel like they're not doing enough. And I'm like, no, you are. You're living your story right now. You shouldn't have to relate it to someone else. I was like, there's still resources here. If you want to learn about your culture, like you can still do that. You can contact people at home. But I think what people don't understand is, you mentioned earlier, is that a lot of people see natives as they were in the past. And so if we don't fill that role, they instantly think we're not being native enough. Mm-hmm. And I was like, you just existing and being yourself is native enough. Like, that's your story. This is you living that world. So when you hear people that say things about you not being native enough, is there like a response that you like to say to that? Or do you just like cut them out of your life?
I feel like I kind of just cut them out. Like, I don't need that bad negative energy in my life.
Yeah,
and
get that juju out.
sometimes when I'm in the mood, I'll like explain myself or kind of teach them, but I'm not always in the mood for that, and it's just not my job.
It's not your job, and it's tiring.
Yeah.
It's so much work. And yeah, sometimes it's not worth it. I feel the same way about having to teach people about Indigenous life. And I'm like, you know what? You have the internet now. You have a phone in your pocket. I was like, if you wanted to learn, you can. Mm-hmm. You know that phrase, like if he wanted to, he could. If she wanted to, he could, like both ways.
Yeah.
It's also the same with Two-Spirit identity. I've been identified as Two-Spirit for about 15 years now. But when I first started identifying as Two-Spirit, not many people knew it. So I spent so much of my time explaining my identity that it was very, very tiresome. But now, since more people know, I don't have to do it as much. Mm-hmm. But now that so many people know about it, if someone asks me about it, I instantly get annoyed. And I'm like, no. Got to take a step back. This is probably coming from a place of genuine curiosity, because they didn't have the experience or people around them to show them. So sometimes it's hard to take that step back and be like, we can have a teaching moment here.
Yeah. And like, so one of my previous jobs, I was an Indigenous student advocate for the school district. So it was literally my job to teach others about Indigenous culture and language and stuff. So I felt like I was in that role for so long, it did definitely get tiring. So I wasn't in it for super long, but like teachers, for example, would always come up to me and ask about, like, they'd expect me to have all the answers for, I don't know, Indigenous group out in Ontario. I'm like, I don't know nothing about that.
So when you were in that position, did you ever feel that if they needed like a Indigenous voice, you were instantly seen as the authority for it? Or if they had like a new project coming in, they're like, oh, well, let's grab Jessica. She's Indigenous, so they will be the voice that we need? Yeah,
especially on like Orange Shirt Day and stuff. They would always have me come in and do lessons, or they have like certain requirements that they have to teach surrounding Indigenous culture, and they would always just have me come in and do it. And I'm like, this is not my job though. This is supposed to be your job, teaching these lessons. Like, I'm just supposed to be here to help. Yeah. So I definitely did get that, and my response would be to send them to like an article or something. I'd be like, here, you can learn about it here. Yeah.
Yeah. And did you ever feel when that first happened that you did it, and then later on you realized that you didn't have to?
Kind of. But then there was like some teachers who were not very well educated, and I was like, oh, this is actually super harmful that they're teaching these children like pretty racist things. Yeah. So I was like, maybe I do need to step in. Otherwise, these little impressionable minds are going to be really
taught the wrong thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I was asked so many times because I used to work in the social sector. Always, because I was Indigenous. They'd be like, oh, let's get Ella to do this because she's an Indigenous voice. And then I'd be like, I'm not from around here. I'm also a visitor on the Okanagan land, the Syilx land. Like this, I'm not a pro at the customs here. They're like, oh, but you're Native. Like, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
I was like, I can try to help to find you a connection to being here. It's like, but just because I work in this organization does not mean that I am the voice of authority just because I'm Native. But when it first happened, I wasn't strong enough or confident enough to say no to them. I would just be like, oh yeah, you're giving us the space. Let's take it. And then afterwards, it's like, no, we need to give the space to the proper people so they can teach proper things.
I think that was definitely like a struggle, is like saying no to people. But when I started like learning more about my culture and language, I had some really good teachers that would tell me it's okay to say no, like especially around like land acknowledgements. I found I was expected to do these at school events and stuff. And this one elder was like, why should you do the land acknowledgement? You're aware this is your land. They are the uninvited guest. They are the ones that should acknowledge that.
Yeah.
So I was like, dang, she's right. I gotta take a step back and have them like do this, learn for themselves.
Exactly. I love that. Great. Bravo for that elder. It's so good. Every time I do a show and they want a land acknowledgement and I'm asked to do it, my first response is like, I'm Native. I know where the fuck I am. I was like, you're white. You can go do it.
Yes.
So every time I'd have a show with another white person, I'd be like, okay, we're doing this and it's going to be a skit, but you're going to do a land acknowledgement. That's not part of the skit. And they'd be like, okay, well, what do I say? So I'd be like, well, acknowledge the land. This is where we are. And I was like, if you don't know where you are, I was like, that's on you now.
Yeah, exactly. Take responsibility for your actions.
Exactly. You want to decolonize the world at least as much as you can. But if you don't know where you're visiting, you're not really doing your job. And some people think that is so silly with a land acknowledgement just to say where you are. I'm like, well, that's not also just saying where you are. We're also putting it as a reminder, let people know, yes, we are on unceded land. You are here as a visitor. Are we ever going to get you out? No, but we need to learn to respect the land that you're on.
Yeah, 100%. I don't know. We have like the 94 calls to action that are supposed to be taking place, but I think
no one knows them.
No. And I think since they were first put out in like 2015, there's only been like 9 that have actually been initiated. And I'm just like, that is so wild. So I feel like that's also why I kind of had to take a step back from the school district, is just because it was so overwhelming thinking all that had to be done and nothing was getting done. And even within like the school district, one of the calls to action is teachers are supposed to educate about residential schools and Indigenous people and their culture. And they were doing like the bare minimum, and it was so frustrating. And like some teachers were definitely better with it, but it was just another requirement for them. So when you do a land acknowledgement, I think there definitely should be some sort of action to go with it, but I think it's difficult for people to be like, where do we even start? Because I don't even know. Like, I know we have those calls to action, but it's overwhelming.
But I mean, like, when I mean call to action, be telling people, read the calls to action.
Yeah.
That's a good first step. And or I always tell people, if they want to buy beaded work, make sure that it comes from Indigenous artists. Don't just buy from anyone. It's like, that's a call to action to support an Indigenous person.
That's true.
A lot of people instantly think that when I say a call to action, it's like, you got to go to everything and fight for us. And I was like, well, we can fight for ourselves. We know you. We appreciate allies. But for one, read the calls to action. The amount of people that don't know them or don't even know that there is calls to action blows my mind still.
Yeah. And I guess that is a super important step, is just having people educate themselves.
Yeah.
Because that would be a lot easier for us.
Yeah, because it's readily available. It's not like it's a book that we're hiding.
No.
It's out there. You can just search 94 Calls to Action, Indigenous Canada, and it's there. It's a document. You can read it. It was made by, I forgot how many chiefs put it together. But it's made for you to read so we can follow and have a good time. I mean, we'll have a good time watching you repent.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you work for West Bank First Nations. What is your role with that?
I work in the archaeology department.
Ooh.
So we are working with like artifacts, finding artifacts, reclaiming artifacts. So fun stuff like that.
Do you all have anything inside the BC Art Museum that didn't want to give up things a few years ago?
I believe so. I don't deal with the records a whole lot, but I know we do have some museums that have some of our stuff that we have asked for back, and some of it is being given back. Some of it we gave them permission to hold it for now.
Yeah.
But
Which I think is good. Once you have that permission, it changes it all. But I think it's wild that the museums are like, well, it's ours. Like, well, for once it was stolen and it's wound up in your gym, your museum.
Yeah. And so all the artifacts that WFN has, they're kept at the Central Museum. So if you or anyone else wants to go visit it, you can go and they'll tell you about different artifacts, our culture, language, history. They do tours and stuff, so that's pretty awesome.
That's so neat. Do you like doing that more than working in the school district?
Yeah, I think because I get to do a lot of like land-based learning and being outside, and I just feel like it's a lot better for me and my mental health.
That makes sense. When you were in school, did you think that this would be your path? That you would have wound up there?
Yeah, kind of. So I went to school for anthropology, and most of my classes were in linguistics and archaeology. So I graduated, was with the school district when I started learning language, and then that's when I also started teaching language. But it got super overwhelming and stressful for me just because it's like definitely hard work, especially when the elders are dying and you're trying to record them as fast as you can and trying to learn it and teach it. And it was just a lot for me, and I'm still involved in some ways, but I kind of took a step back, and that's when I started doing archaeology. And one of my profs in school, she was an archaeologist, and I just thought she was so cool. She got to travel around the world and do all these digs, and I was like, that's awesome. I want to do that. So I was kind of hoping for this, but it took me a while to get an archaeology job, especially one that like wasn't super colonial, because like historically archaeologists would come steal all the artifacts and be like, peace.
Not even ask for permission, just walk in there, start digging up the land, and then be like, oh, this is mine, thank you.
Yeah, exactly. So I think I really wanted a job that was for reclaiming and repatriating the artifacts, not just stealing them and keeping them.
That's so cool. I love that. It's great when like things work out, right? Going into the field that you want to go into. Yeah.
I feel super lucky that I'm able to do that here.
Nice. All right, I want to talk about your relationship.
Okay.
Because I like them. Do you find your partners really into exploring your culture with you as well?
Yeah, they've been super great about learning different parts of my culture and like even my language. It was actually really cute. At my language graduation, I was teaching them like a few words, and they would like go up to people and they'd be like, oh, Ella Lamoureux, which means Jessica's super beautiful. And that was like the only thing they knew for a while, and everyone was just like, of course that's the only thing she taught you.
That's adorable.
But then I also taught them like little mantras and stuff, like kin kitch quatch, which is I'm strong. Yeah. And with them like starting new jobs and stuff, they were always like stressed. So I was like, you are strong. You got to tell yourself that. Yeah. So they're super into learning my language and culture, and I really appreciate that.
That is so good to have when you have like someone in your life that supports and builds you up, but also is willing to learn with you. Mm-hmm. You know, I hate it when people come in here and they're blessed.
Yeah. Yeah, my family is like also super obsessed with them. Like when I show up to a family event and they're not there, they're like, where's Elodie? Yeah,
where's Elodie? Like, well, I'm here.
Yeah.
Like, we know.
Exactly.
That's so fantastic. How long have you been with your partner?
This is going to be 5 years in the summer.
Wow.
But we've known each other, I think, for like 6 or 7.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Wedding bells in the future? Love throwing that out there. Another also colonial aspect. But
I mean, probably. I'm just waiting.
Yeah, waiting for that ring, right?
Yeah.
Amazing. Do you ever go to any, does your community have powwows, or I don't know if they'd call it that, or like ceremonial gatherings? They
do. But I feel like they're usually on weekdays where I'm like not able to go. Mm-hmm. But in the summertime, another cool thing about working for West Bank is they give me like cultural days off if I want to go attend one of those community events or even just go out berry picking or whatever. Yeah. So they've been super awesome about that. And
that's amazing. Like, it's berry picking day. They're like, yep, go for it.
Exactly.
That's so cool.
So I try to attend them as much as I can, but not enough. I attend more of West Banks events.
That makes sense. You're right there and you work with them, right? So then you know when it's happening.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I try to attend as much Indigenous things as well as I can. But sometimes it's hard to get out there. Life gets busy. And this is the story we were talking about earlier about being an urban native and navigating what we can and cannot do. And I try to do more ceremonial things. For one, I find the sound of a drum to be so soothing. Even if it's like really intense and it's dancing, I just feel like it just calms the soul for myself anyways. So being in an area where they have that, or with smudging. I like that as well. Are you a smudger?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you do that around the house? Get your bad jujus out?
I do. I do. Like, even when I have a bad day, my partner's like, do we need to get the smudge out? I'm like, yeah.
Like, yes, you do. You do.
So it's really cute that they know those like little things around me.
Yeah, I love that. That's so good. And smudging's so good. If people don't know it at home, I think they even had like scientific studies that shows that sage does cleanse the air. And I think that's so neat because natives were ahead of our time. We knew what to burn to clean the area of bad energies, even if it's just like cleansing, which I think is so cool. Do you have, for stuff that you burn in the sage pit, is it very similar here to your home?
Yeah.
The sage pit? I mean, like the bowl.
Yeah, I'd say it's pretty similar. Depending on like what you're burning for, you'll maybe add some different things. Like maybe you'll add some like tobacco or something. But usually I just do sage if I'm just like cleansing me or my house or something like that.
I agree. I have I just have my little sage that I burn as well. I don't go around too much with a little feather. But I remember seeing a meme being like, I burnt sage in my house to get rid of the bad spirits, but it turns out it was me. And that reminded me of when I was younger, because when I was younger, I used to drink and party quite a lot. And I was like, maybe I am the problem.
Am I the drama?
Yeah, am I the drama? I also went to, with my ex-husband, we got married down in Mexico, and then we had a shaman. We went to a shaman, and then they blessed our union, which is quite good. Didn't go far, but that's fine. I'm still friends with him. But after we got blessed, I got so sick.
Oh no.
Like I was like vomiting and just shitting myself. And I was like, is this all the demons in me coming out? It was just like a moment where, for one, I was 2 days sick right after that. And, you're just like down on your energy, being like, I just want to get better. And I remember telling Robin, my ex, I was like, I'm the problem. And, yeah, if you don't have if anyone has a chance at home, go get some cleansing, get some sage, buy some. But if you're going to buy some, go to an Indigenous store. Because remember I said, if you want to support, it's a good way to do it. Or you can find someone that's willing to take you out to show you how to harvest it or show you the right sage to burn. Yeah.
They'll probably ask for some sort of some money.
Yeah, exactly. Don't be afraid to do that, because don't take knowledge for free. We had to refund this. I mean, we had to relearn it.
100%. I saw you had Crystal with a K on, and yeah. I love her. I think she has so much good knowledge to share. And just like speaking of Indigenous people, like teaching others, I don't know how much she talked about this, but just doing her like land tours and stuff like that. If you're ever in the Okanagan and want to take a cool tour, I'd like reach out to her for sure, because she has so many good stories and knowledge. Yeah,
she'll take you up into the mountains. And Chris with a K, I just love her. She's so open, so free. She openly talks about her past struggles to get to where she is now. And I think, I just adore her as well. Plus her energy is so good. She's so wild, like just so full of energy, and adore her. Do you work alongside her?
No.
Like within the community, I mean, because she doesn't work at WFN, right?
No, not really. It's actually kind of like random, but when I was younger, my sister had me doing like a bunch of modeling gigs, and Crystal with a K, she made clothing, so I would like model clothes for her. So that's how I met her. So
there's a connection. Just say, if you ever have any modeling gigs, find Jessica.
Yeah.
Are you still in modeling?
Mostly just hair modeling. My sister has like a braiding business. Yeah. So whenever she wants to try like a new look, she'll always have me come over and do photo shoots and stuff with me. So I do hair modeling for her. Whenever
That's
I
cool.
get my hair cut, she's like, oh my God, what have
Don't
you done?
do it.
Yeah. Like for a lot of reasons, but she's like, oh my God, now I have to add extensions. Are you kidding me?
Do you ever, when you get your hair cut, it just made me remind it, because when I was younger, I was always taught by my mother and my grandmother that if you ever cut your hair, you had to burn it.
Oh.
Because there's significance in there, and then people can take your hair and imbue bad energy into your life. So ever since I was younger, I always, like, if I got my hair cut, I'd be like, I'm just gonna take my hair with me. Because it's kind of wild. You grow up with these stories, and there could be some truth to it. I don't know, but I don't want to take the chance that it isn't.
Yeah, so usually my sister's the one who cuts my hair, but if I ever do go to a salon, I do ask for my hair. I'm not leaving that with anyone. I'm not about to be like, I don't know what'll happen, but I'm not risking it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not taking a chance. And everyone's like, are you sure? And I was like, yeah.
I'll take my hair back.
Yeah, just take it back. Pull out your little baggie, put it in there.
Yeah.
And it's such a small thing. Like I said, I don't want to take the chance. Just like another story I'm thinking about. I don't know if it's the same story here, but the Northern Lights. It's not as bright here, but in the Yukon, they light up the whole sky and they dance. I'm sure you've seen that. But in our culture, if you sing to it, that's your ancestors are dancing up there. But if you sing to them, that's telling them that you're ready to leave this plane. So you're asking them to come take you. So they'd be like, don't sing to it. So I'd hear like people like singing, I'm like, don't.
You're like, shut up.
Yeah, shut up. It's like, what if they think it's me and they come take me with them? I'm not ready to go yet. So like, another thing, not going to take the chance.
No,
No.
absolutely not. I think we do have similar stories like that. And like I was saying, like with Owl, sometimes I like think back on these stories and it's like, was this just because my mom would tell me these stories about Owl and how she ate little kids for dinner, and
Just to scare you a little bit.
right? And owls are obviously out at night pretty frequently. So I was like, does she just tell me these stories to scare me so I wouldn't be playing outside like in the dark, or is Owl actually coming to eat me? I'm not sure, but
Yeah.
I'm going to be inside when the sun sets.
Yeah, gonna hide from them. That makes sense. So what do they call the man-eating owl or person-eating owl? Child-eating owl?
Yeah, Shkalula.
Skalula.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing. We have one that's similar up in the Yukon called Mitzi.
Oh.
And it's kind of like a Sasquatch-esque like man bear essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And they'd always be like, you gotta be good or Mitzi's gonna come get you.
Yeah.
Like, no.
Oh my gosh, there's so many stories about Sasquatch. And like I was camping with my cousins over the summer and we were just like out having a good time. It was like midnight, we're having a little fire. And then some of my cousins are like, let's go out for a midnight paddleboard. I'm like, y'all are crazy. I'm gonna stay here by the fire, but go have fun.
Have fun.
And they're like, we're gonna be like 10 minutes. I was like, okay. An hour passes by. I'm like, where are they? Are they okay? So I go to the edge of the lake and I'm yelling their names. And they're like, who is that? I was like, it's Jessica. Like, come back. And they're like, nope, I'm not coming back. Because they thought I was like Sasquatch. Because like some of the stories say Sasquatch can like imitate voices and stuff. So when I was calling them back, they were so scared to come back. Like they stayed out there for a really long time.
They just don't want to take the chance.
They don't
know, right?
Chance it.
These stories have come from somewhere.
Yeah, right? And it's interesting because even though, like, most of my cousins, they grew up Thompson, and I grew up in the, like, Okanagan, but we still have, like, similar stories. And I'm like, how can we all have, like, the same story? Something must have happened there.
Yeah, something happened.
Yeah.
Like I said, like there's a reason we have these stories.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe they were just made up to be to scare children. This isn't the Bible.
Exactly.
Exactly. There's truth.
Oh my God.
Amazing. We're gonna close this up now, Jessica, but I appreciate getting to know you more. Because like I said earlier, it was just, we'd meet each other out and we'd say hi and I'd give you and your partner a hug and it was so fantastic. I am blown away with who you are as a person. I think you are a beacon in this crazy world that we live in. And I'm truly grateful that you had this little conversation with me today.
Well, Ella, it was nice getting to know you more too.
I know, it's such a beautiful moment. I feel like Natives just need to talk more. And that's one of my main things for wanting to do this podcast is that I listen to so many Indigenous people, but a lot of people don't get to hear other Indigenous people talk to each other. And I just want everyone to know that we all have a story and it's interesting, and we should all talk to each other more instead of just being so individual, which I feel like the world tells us to be. You know, we have to be our own separate island. And I just want to get to know all the natives. White people second, but but natives to the front. But thank you so much for coming here. Do you want to tell, if you want to share your social media where they can find you? That's up to you. You don't need to, but.
It's just my name, Jessica Chillihitzia.
There you go.
There you
You
go.
want to find out? I was about to say where they are, but you're not a performer. I got so used to saying that. If you want to find out where they're performing next, this is where you can contact them. Yes, thank you so much for coming out. I really appreciate you coming here, and I'm so excited to see you again at all of our events.
Thank you. And Nunawisa Shwikinchan. So that means until we see each other next time.
Oh, okay. Bye.
Bye.